Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ben, but my friends call me the Wolfman. It is Saturday, which is my last work day of the week. It is Saturday, August the 29th, 2020. I am headed to Walmart. Just left work. It's 3:46. Called it a little bit of an early day, which is not uncommon for Saturday. Headed to Walmart to pick me up a bottle of something. Haven't yet decided. I got tin cup whiskey last time, which I highly recommend. It is quite good. If you like Maker's Mark, it's that direction. But I think, honestly, Maker's Mark was like my treat yourself kind of whiskey. Generally, if I was going to spend some money on whiskey and get a sipper, I was going to get Maker's Mark. And I think I may have just found my new favorite whiskey. Tin cup is very good, and it comes with a tin cup, which is, just the bee's knees. So I don't know, I alternate between whiskey and rum, but I'm just really not feeling rum right now. So maybe I'll go ahead and get another bottle of whiskey. Maybe I'll go crazy and fucking get some brandy or some gin. Maybe I'll go completely outside the box. Who knows? Who knows what I'm gonna do? Wild man. Done working for the week. I can do anything. Taking no thought for the morrow. I'm just talking shit. No, I'm going to Walmart to pick me up supplies. Get me a bottle of liquor. I hardly knew her. Bottle of liquor and a can of Wolf brand chili. Not a sponsor. So I've been working here for months. And I noticed a pattern. My boss, good guy, grumpy in the mornings. I'm grumpy in the mornings. So, I mean, not every morning, and I, generally keep that shit to myself. But, it seemed a little bit odd. But I'm oblivious sometimes to things. I refuse to deal with subtext I refuse to be held responsible for subtext, which is a natural tendency of people with certain traumatic experiences is to be really on guard, and worried about what are you thinking, what are you trying to tell me, and trying to read between the lines, and it's a fucking miserable way to live. It's very common in an abusive relationship, and I say an abusive relationship, it's overused, right? And just like toxic people, there's no such thing as toxic people. And I don't think there's really any such thing as an abusive relationship. It's just like, where do you draw the line? Oh, are you in a relationship with a person who's never abusive in any way, who's not toxic at all, who has no toxic traits? Are you in a relationship with a perfect person? Are you in a perfect relationship with a perfect person? Because the idea of a toxic relationship implies the existence of a non-toxic relationship. And I think that's way too simple, right? So, while there are if you came to me and you said, hey, I'm in a toxic relationship, what's your advice? I'm not going to sit there and nitpick with you. Well, it's not really a toxic relationship. There is no such thing. There's just, the composite of different behaviors and different interactions and different moments in a relationship that come together for a medley of different things that may be unhealthy for you overall, but not every part of your... I mean, that's technically true, but I'd be a real asshole if I were to try to relate to you in that way. So I'm not saying you can't say a relationship is toxic. I can't say you're absolutely justified in looking at a relationship and declaring this relationship is toxic. And therefore, I'm going to cut it off because, it's it's not helping me reach my goals. It's not making my life the way that I want my life to be. I don't owe this person anything, and so I'm cutting them off. You're allowed to make that decision. But I do think that the term abusive relationship is oversimplified. But one marker of abuse that, you definitely see a lot of relationships. You think of relationships like with a romantic partner as different from relationships with, say, an employer. But it's still an interaction between two human beings. And a lot of employers are basically abusers. It's an abusive relationship that you have with your employer. And you're like, yeah, well, you can leave anytime you want. Okay, yeah, you can leave anytime you want. You have to have money. It's very difficult to get by in this country without money. Like, even if you buy your own property and you're self-sustaining, and you figured out how to make your own soap and deodorant, and you grow all your own food and feed for your animals, and you're completely self-sustaining, how are you going to pay your fucking property taxes? You have to have money. So maybe you can leave that employer, but you got to find a way to have money. That is the system that you're in. So whatever. The point is, yeah, it may be an abusive relationship. Even though you can leave whenever you want, it may be abusive. And, if you're in a romantic relationship that's abusive, you can leave that whenever you want as well. But that doesn't make it any less abusive. And so relationships between employers and employees can certainly be abusive. And that's like, there's a spectrum of that. Like, you might be in a relationship with a really great person. You might have a really great relationship, but there might be one thing about it that is not really healthy, that maybe could be worked on, okay? And so just because there's one thing wrong with a relationship doesn't mean you got to throw the whole relationship out. I'm not saying that. And now I've lost the thread. I've gone so far down this train of thought that I've lost the thread. I was setting up to tell you about a specific abusive trait in a relationship, and I completely have forgotten my point. 1 second. Okay, I remember now. So one abusive trait in a relationship will be that the other person expects you to read their mind and doesn't communicate with you, and then you get in trouble in whatever way from your partner or your boss or your parent or, God, hell, I guess it could be your child or whatever. You get in trouble for breaking a rule that you didn't know was a rule. You get in trouble for crossing a line that you didn't know was a line because they never communicated with you. And then when they get angry, they don't tell you about it. They just drop hints. And they do this passive-aggressive hint-dropping bullshit. And it makes you go into this survival mode all the time where you got to be watching them, and you can't relax because you got to be watching them to see if they're upset because they won't tell you. Okay? So the point is, I've been in those situations, and as a general rule, if I notice that someone is dropping hints, I'm going to be a dick about it. I am going to be, I don't actually consider this to be the wrong thing to do. I don't actually consider it like dickish behavior. But if the people that I do it to think that it's dickish. Because if you come at me with some passive-aggressive hint dropping, I am going to completely pretend like I don't notice it. You'd be like, you never take the trash out. Or whatever, that's not a very good example, but you never take the trash out. And I'll be like, yeah, you know what, you're right. I never do. Now, obviously, you're trying to get me to take the trash out, but that's not a fucking good way to go about it. That's not a healthy thing to say. You say, hey, could you take the trash out? And I say, sure, man, no problem. But, so that's the kind of thing. I will force it. Sorry, I had to spit. I think you wanted to see that. So, generally, if somebody's being passive-aggressive and dropping hints, I will force it by refusing to get any of the hints. I don't take the hints, and then if it's a problem, if it's not a problem for me, then I just let them. Like, it's a problem for you, and so you're dropping hints. That's not a problem for me. Like, I can just let your hints wash over me. If it's a problem for you and you're dropping hints instead of direct communication, and then like it starts to become a problem for me, that's when I will force a confrontation. And I think that that's, honestly, a lot of people don't like it, but I think that's probably the healthiest way to deal with this situation. So, anyway, long story short, because I've been in that situation a few times before, I've trained myself not to even notice the hints sometimes. And also, I'm just partly that way. Like, I know people that have an eye have what I call a critical eye. They walk into a room and they can immediately see everything that's wrong with it. Like, these are the things that jump out at them. This is not how I'm wired. I don't have a critical eye. I notice the things that I like. The things that I don't like, I'll only notice if they're in between me and what I want. That's just how I'm wired. I've certainly done what I could to reinforce that trait in myself, but I can't take full credit for it unless you believe in past lives. I certainly didn't. Like, I started this life off with some of that in me. I'm wired more to see what's good than to be critical. And so sometimes I'm not even trying, but one way or the other, for whatever reason, I don't know, I'm kind of talking shit right now. I don't know 100%. I'm not 100%. I don't have the fucking user's manual for this meat suit. So, you know, I've done a lot to explore myself and how I work and figure out what makes Monkey tick. But I don't have a complete understanding. I don't know if anybody ever does. There are things that I don't know, that I don't fully understand about myself. And those are just the things that I know that I don't know. Who was it? Colin Powell talked about the unknown unknowns. Fucking everybody got a great laugh out of it, even though it's like legitimately a very good way to look at things. Anyways, God, I stop paying attention when I'm talking sometimes, and then I'll start listening to myself again, and I'm like, what the fuck did I just say? Dog. What the hell was I talking about? So, right. I'm talking shit. I don't necessarily know why I don't pick up on the hints. But that's my best explanation of it. Point is, I don't always pick up on the hints. So, I'm starting to notice a pattern that my boss is angry in the mornings. I think he's grumpy in the mornings. If you listen to me enough, you know that grumpy is like being angry, but angry is when you have a reason for it. Grumpy is just a cumulative effect I'm just irritable. It's not that I'm irritated, it's that I'm irritable. And so, like, the thing that happens makes my angry react. Okay? So I think he's grumpy. Well, one day I come into work and I clock in 2 minutes before I'm supposed to be there. I'm supposed to be there at 6. Like, that's, if I'm there at 6:01, I'm marked tardy. I'm supposed to be there at 6. I'm hitting the clock at 5:58. I am not a morning person, naturally. I worked second shift from the time I got out of the Army for 6 years, and there was a lot I didn't like about that company, but second shift is the way to fucking go. Wake up without an alarm. You wake up naturally with the sun every day. Take my free time on the front side of the day, go to bed when I feel like it. It's much more natural, for me at least, to work second shift. It aligns with my natural rhythm. My natural sleep rhythm aligns well with second shift. I've mentioned this before. Monkey doesn't like getting up before the sun comes up. So I got to be there at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm already getting up at 4:30. So I shoot for quarter till, but I don't fucking make it at quarter till. I'm usually there right to say. The reason I'm shooting for quarter till is because it's hard for me personally. I feel like I'm I'm wearing weights. I'm wearing a weight vest in the morning until about 10 o'clock. So I shoot for quarter till. It ensures that I'm never actually late, but I'm usually last minute. So I walk in 2 minutes to 6. I walk up. I go to grab the cards because after you actually clock in, then you have to get the cards you're working on, and you have to clock to those cards on a separate system. Generally how it works in aviation, most everywhere I've gone. Some places the lead does that for you, attaches you to the jobs, but it's just a record-keeping system. Anyways, my crew, my boss, and the van that we use to ride around the airfield, I see them leaving without me. This is at 6 o'clock when we're supposed to be there, as far as I know. So my supervisor walks up and he says, "Hey, have you seen your boss?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I think I just saw the van pull off." And he's like, "Well, have you called him?" And I was like, "No." And I gave him a call, and he's like, "You're late. I left without you, but I'll come back and get you." So I'm like, all right, cool. And so I get in the van, and I'm like, "Hey, man, what time do you need me to be here? Because I was here at 6 o'clock. I was here by 6 o'clock. So what time do you need me to be here?" And he says, "Well, before 6. Like, come on, dude. What time? Like, what I think what I said was, "Well, okay, what do you mean? 10 minutes before?" He goes, "At least 5 minutes." All right. So finally, he's actually told me what he wants. He wouldn't even tell me what he wants. He goes, this was a few days ago now, but he goes, "Well, I need you here before 6. And I go, "Okay, well, how much before 6? Because I was here before 6 by 2 minutes, and you're still not happy." And he goes, if I wasn't happy, then you wouldn't be on this crew." And I'm looking at him, and he's like raising his voice and like glaring at me. "If I wasn't happy?" Like, okay. I was like, "All right, Felix. You know, whatever, man. You think you're happy right now. That's not what happy looks like. According to my storybooks, happy's a smiley face. What the facial expression that you're displaying is angry. You seem to be confusing angry and happy. But, I mean, Felix is a good guy, okay, and a very intelligent guy. So, like, I'm not talking any shit about him. And he's actually one of the best bosses I've ever had. So that's neither here nor there. The point is, the point of this story is about how oblivious I can be sometimes. Because I'm sure he was fucking, like, trying to, without being a dick, trying to, like, you know, get me to do what he thought the right thing was. And so, anyways, the point is, like, he's like, "Well, at least 5 minutes." So I'm thinking about this. I'm like, okay, I'm already shooting for quarter till. I'm getting here just on time. He says 5 minutes. I fucking know he doesn't mean 5 minutes. I know he means earlier than that. Like, I could force it. I could show up at 5 minutes like an asshole, and I can fucking be stubborn about this. And I'm like, whatever. So I just take all my alarms, because I have a bunch of alarms for the morning. I get up at the first one, but then, like, I have an alarm that's like, okay, you need to be done with this part of getting ready, and you need to be on this, and it keeps me on track. So I just took all my alarms and I rolled them back a half an hour, and now I show up around 5:30, and it's less stressful, and it's better and everything. And like 2 or 3 days of this go by, and I notice Felix has not been grumpy in the morning, not one time. And I'm like, oh shit, you haven't been grumpy, you've been mad at me this whole time. Like, I'm the reason you were in a bad mood? Dog, why didn't you say so? If you would have just told me, which I'm sure he thinks that he did. I'm sure that he thinks that he did. Communication is not one person's fault. Ever. Like, a failed communication is never one person's fault. It's like, I thought that I told you this, but what you thought that I told you was something else. I go, do you understand? You go, yes, thinking that you understand. Now I think you understand because you told me that you understand. You don't know that you didn't understand. And then we go to lift the heavy thing, you twist the opposite direction of the way that I said, because when I said right, I meant your right, and you thought I meant my right, and now my back's fucked up for 2 weeks. And that's not your fault, nor is it my fault. Exactly, because the bitch about teamwork is that you can't do it alone, and everybody has to do it, or nobody's doing it. So communication is a form of teamwork. It's a component of teamwork. And, it's nobody's fault. It's a 3-part thing. There's a message, a sender, and a receiver. And if any part of that is fucked up, the whole thing's fucked up. So I'm sure he tried to tell me. But I just thought it was pretty fucking funny that that 3 months go by, and I think this dude's just grumpy in the morning. And it actually turns out that I was pissing him off every single day. Every single day. But I wasn't wrong enough that he felt justified in, yelling at me, telling me I'm, straight up wrong. I was just wrong enough to annoy him. And so he didn't say, I don't know if he said it or not, but he didn't say it hard enough to get through my thick skull. And then, literally every day since then, he's just been fucking happy. Like jolly old St. Nick, from fucking dusk till dawn. From the moment I get there to the moment I leave, he's just happy. And I'm pretty sure I've been pissing him off every day for 3 months. That's my story. I'm at Walmart, so I'm going to go get my rum and my chili. Wolfman out.